Welcome everyone. Let's begin our lesson for today by going over our learning goals and success criteria. First, what are we learning? We're learning how to compare the relative position of rational numbers on a number line and how to compare rational numbers and order them from least to greatest. How are we learning it? Through the rational number sense notes and the rational number sense assignment. When can we use this? To develop mathematical organizational skills that allow you to organize budgets, use relative numbers to split checks, and determine the cost of sale items. How do we know we learned it? By getting a score of 4 on the rational number sense assignment. Now let's take a look at our agenda for today. We'll begin by going over our learning goals and success criteria. While we do that, you'll fill out your Get It Started. Once you've completed your Get It Started, we'll go over it together and answer any questions that you may have. Then we'll complete the rational number sense notes. After that, you'll fill out your rational number sense assignment. Once you've completed that, we'll go over it together and answer any questions that you may have. At the end of class, we'll go back over our learning goals and success criteria. While we do that, you'll fill out your Before You Go. Your only homework for tonight is to continue working on the Reasoning with Rational Numbers study guide and any incomplete assignments that you may have. Let's take a look now at the rational number sense notes. Our notes begin with the learning goals and success criteria. Now we're given a number line here and it says how many rational numbers exist between two numbers. So how many values can we place between 0 and 1? Well, we can do like a half, right? That would be 1. Then we could cut that in half. That would be a fourth. Then we could cut that in half. That would be an eighth. Then we could cut that in half and it would be a 16th. Then we can cut that in half and it would be 1/32. Is there any limit to the number of times we can keep cutting that in half? And even at that, we could go 1/6, 1/3, 1/12, and so on. So we can do this with any values. And then on the other side, we can go 2/3, 2/6, 4/6, 5/6, etc. So if we were to cut it in half and place a point at 1/2, how many values could we place between 0 and 1/2? This is known as a midpoint strategy where we keep cutting it in half like I just mentioned. What other ways can we use to find rational numbers between two other numbers? Well, we can use any number of ways. What we should come out of this knowing is that there is no limit to the number of rational numbers between two values. So even if I pick two rational numbers, 1/3 and 1/2, there's still an infinite number of values that come between them. So now who is the greatest of them all? We have 3/5 is greater than 5/6, and we need to determine whether that is a true statement or not. So if the denominators are not the same, how can we determine which is the greater rational number? Well, one answer is we could get common denominators. So I could change this to be over 30 and this to be over 30 and then see what our answer is. That's a lot of work, but that is a possibility. We can cross multiply. So 3 times 6 is 18, so this one's equal to 18. 5 times 5 is 25, so this side is greater. We could also convert to a decimal. So I can change 3/5 to a decimal and 5/6 to a decimal. I can plot them on the real number line using Desmos. So I could put in 0, 3/5 and 0, 5/6 and see which one's further along. And lastly, I can compare to other rational numbers to determine the distance. So let's say, let's try to figure out if these are comparable. If one's bigger than 1/2 and the other one's not, well, then we know that the one that's bigger than 1/2 is the greater number. So those are some examples of what we can do. So common denominators, that's one possible solution. So we have 3/5 and 5/6. Well, we can see that our common denominator should be 30, right? Because we multiply this by 6 over 6 and this by 5 over 5. And what we end up with is 6 times 3 is 18 and 5 times 5 is 25. So we get 18 over 30 and 25 over 30. So that's one possibility of what we can do. Now, cross multiplication. Cross multiplication is just like finding the common denominator, except we don't worry about the denominator itself. So we're just going to multiply 3 times 6 and 5 times 5. And we end up with 18 and 25, which we know that 25 is greater. Next, we can convert to a decimal. So we have 3 divided by 5, which is 0.6, and 5 divided by 6, which is 0.83 repeat, which we can see that this number is greater. Next, we can plot these on the real number line. So if we do that using Desmos, we plot 3/5, we should end up with something that looks like this. This is our point for 3/5. And then if we do 5/6 as well, we end up with a point right here, and we can see that this one is greater than this one. Lastly, comparing it to some other rational number. 3/5 is close to 1/2 because 2/5 is over 5 is equal to 1/2. 5/6 is not as close to 1/2 because 3/6 is 1/2. And we have 5/6, so we're much further away here, so we can see then that 5/6 must be bigger. So these are different strategies that you can use to compare rational numbers. Let's talk now about how to sign in to Desmos to complete your work. So what we're going to do is you're going to click on the link to go to the assignment, and it should take you to a page that looks kind of like this. And right here where it says sign in with Google, we're going to click there. And it's going to pop up with our email accounts. You're going to click on your school email account, and it should already have you logged in because you should have already been logged in using Google Classroom. From there, I'm just going to click start the activity, and it will take me into the assignment and allow me to begin. So that's how you will log in to Desmos using Google. Let's take a look now at the rational number sense assignment. Notice my assignment begins with the learning goals and success criteria. If I scroll down, there's a link here to take me to the Desmos activity. Go ahead and click on that link, and it'll take me to a page that looks like this. I'm going to go ahead and click start the activity. It begins with our learning goals and success criteria. We'll go ahead and click next. And it says find 3 numbers between 7/12 and 7/11. Well, I can go ahead and do that. So I'm going to try to find some number that's between. So I'm going to come up with 3 numbers that are in between. And then you're going to explain your strategy. How did you come up with those numbers? And could you come up with more strategies that will work? So one way I can do this is I could average these two. Right? I could take 7/12 and 7/11 and average them. And then whatever I get from that, I could average 7/12 and that number and then average it again. So we could do that, and it would be referred to as using the midpoint theorem. So we could keep trying to do that. So what other ways could we do it? So you're just going to put in 3 numbers that are between and then explain how you got there and then what other strategies might work. Then we'll click next. And now we're going to determine which statements are true. So the first one says 1/6 is greater than 1/7. And we're going to decide is that true or not. We should know that that is true. So we're going to go ahead and click to select it. And we'll do that for each of these. So we'll just select the ones that are true on this whole page. So let's say these ones are all true here and not those ones. And then we'll go ahead and click next. And we'll answer each of these until we get to the end. Once we get to the end, we'll go back to our Google form. We'll click next. This will send you to your before you go. Fill out your before you go and then submit your work on Google Classroom.